and then you sell it on DVD to people.
A chalet with a normal bed, some warm water. That's my style.
Hey everybody, good to see you all again. Good to see you all again. Today we've got some really awesome guests today, some very professional business English guests. But before we get into that, I'd like to introduce my hostess with the mostest, Claire Satchwell. How are you today, Claire?
Robin, I can never stop laughing at you. Hello.
Hello.
I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well, thank you. How are you?
Awesome. Very good, thank you. It appears that you have moved again. How is your road tripping from Airbnb to Airbnb going?
It's been a wonderful trip.
Good. That's fantastic. I don't think I could ever do that in South Africa. It's way too dangerous here.
Ooh.
But don't tell anybody that. All right, let's get to it. So I decided to dress up today because we are going to be talking about some business English. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that I think it was last week or the week before, one of our viewers requested a British teacher. So your wish is my command. So today I'm going to be chatting to Andrew Smith. All right. So he has his own company and he focuses on business English. All right. So I'd like to dive in there. You've got your plain English, but we are going all the way to the business side. Who have you got for us, Robin?
Also, we're talking with David Alexander Cantu, who's polyglot, and he teaches business English as well. Very, very, very helpful stuff. If you see on his Facebook, I believe he's also on YouTube. But very useful, very practical.
Absolutely, I love that. Fantastic. Well, let's get started then. Okay. All right. Welcome, Andrew. Hello.
Hey, Claire.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
Awesome. Very well, thank you. I must point out something. With my students, they always say to me, teacher, where are you from? Are you from the UK? And I always say, guys, listen, if you hear me speaking alongside a British teacher, you'll see it's polar opposite, so it's awesome to hear your accent, and perhaps if we have other students, they can see the difference between our accents. It is very different.
Yeah, I think over the years I've been teaching and living in different countries. I've met lots of South African people, great people, South Africans.
You better say that.
I say that anyway. But
good.
Sometimes I think when I first meet a South African person, it takes a few minutes to sometimes tell, is this person South African or are they from elsewhere? I'm not sure. I've never had to ask because I've just kind of guessed from the accent, but I can understand people's confusion sometimes.
Yes, definitely. Well, Andrew, could you please tell us a bit about your background and how you got to where you are today?
Oh, well, my first exposure to teaching business English was way back in 2011. So this was 10 years ago now. My first teaching job was in Thailand, and I was teaching general English to high school students at a state-run school in the south of Thailand. And after living there for a few months, there was this bar slash live music venue that I used to go to.
Okay,
And
as one does.
the band that were playing invited me to play some drums for them sometimes when I was there, because I played the drums. And I learned that they were bankers. Weirdly enough, right? A Thai reggae band, and some of them were bankers. And I befriended these people, and they invited me to do a business English workshop or training at Krung Thep Bank, which is a very big bank in Thailand. And that was it. That was really what started it off. I did that one course and I loved it. And I actually preferred teaching adults and business professionals more than I did teaching children. And then, of course, you know, referrals started coming in, and they were telling other business professionals and companies. And that's really how it started. And then after that, I moved to Indonesia and taught online English there. Then I moved to Germany in a small city called Halle, which is about an hour from Berlin. And in Germany, I had the amazing opportunity to work for or with many great businesses, German and international businesses like Siemens, Deutsche Bank, Google, and also some German universities as well. And I started my first teaching business in Germany, actually with Chris. Chris was the one who helped me set it up. And that was how it all started. And here I am now in rainy England.
Oh dear.
But still doing what I'm doing and still loving what I'm doing.
Good. That's what's most important, honestly. I really believe that. So do you have any corporate experience before you went into the teaching industry?
Yeah, so I was a salesman. Before I started teaching, I worked in sales for a British company. I was there just over a year or so. I liked that job, and it was interesting, but I realized that teaching was really what my passion was and what came naturally to me. So I kind of went off into the business English sphere. But yeah, I had a history of working in sales, and of course, setting up your own teaching business entails you to use a lot of and have a lot of good business skills as well. So yeah,
and also a certain amount of sales knowledge. And I think what's very important is that the students aren't going to immediately come to you when you start your own business. You sort of need to go and be a hunter-gatherer and go out there and find your students and promote your business, which I think sometimes teachers that are starting their own businesses, they struggle with that. Would you agree?
Definitely. Yeah, 100%. I struggled when I first started. I had help, luckily, from people. But yeah, I think people often have the mindset of, you know, build it and they will come. They won't. Unfortunately, they won't. Not all the time, anyway. So you have to have a certain presence, and you have to know your students and the people who you are serving very well, extremely well, in fact. For you to really get on their level. Once they see that you truly understand what they want, and once you see what they want outside of learning English as well, like the problems that they have at home, in their personal life, in their relationships, once you understand that, I think it becomes a lot easier, because you can relate to them in many different ways, not just in a linguistic way and as a teacher, but, you know, in many different ways as well.
Absolutely. Well, that is one of my questions to you, was what skills do you need to teach business English? And I think that you've answered my question there. Fantastic. And what do you do to find students, and what are you doing to constantly grow your business?
Well, I think there are a few different methods that people can use. I think when you first start off, you probably want to go with organic methods. When I say organic, I mean free, for those of you who aren't aware of these terms. But I think there are many good ways, but one of the things that I found worked when I first started my business which was what really grew my list at the beginning, was hijacking someone else's audience. Now, what I mean by that, by hijacking someone else's audience, is, when you first start out, you don't have any audience. You have like a few friends or followers on Facebook. These are usually your family that do it because they, I don't know, feel sorry for you, because they see that big 0 on your page.
Let's rather say they're excited for us.
They're supportive. But when you first start out, you typically don't have an audience, and there are people out there in the same sort of sphere as you that do have an audience. And I think a really good method that you can use when you first start out is collaborating with people who are in your niche, or who are in like surrounding niches as well. There was a podcast that I listened to a while back from an American guy called Graham Cochran. And he was like, if I want to sell something to football fans, then I can get in front of an audience who, for example, like a beer company, because people who watch football typically like beer. Or I could get in front of an audience for a company that sells Doritos, right? And Tex-Mex, whatever it is you call it in the United States.
Doritos, yeah.
Doritos. We say Doritos in the UK. So you do that because you know that the people who are watching those commercials would probably also be interested in what you have to offer as well. So a good tip that I have is, rather than, getting in front of an audience with someone that is, completely related to what you're doing, think about the surrounding niches as well, because there are plenty of other opportunities there to grow your audience and to grow your list there.
That's amazing, amazing advice. Thank you, Andrew. And what I said recently is that organic marketing is the way to go, because you don't have a marketing budget, as to speak, for that, for your new business. So don't get into debt in order to start your business. There are different ways. And what I'm finding as well, I'm constantly learning, and there are lots of YouTube videos that tell you exactly what to do on the different social media platforms, on Google, with websites. So the knowledge, the information is out there. You just got to find it and educate yourself.
Yeah. And I think another thing that people often overlook as well is, when you're first starting off, the best thing you can do, and what worked for me, was to pick the low-hanging fruit, right? The people that you have been working with, and the people that you have had as clients in the past, who you've built a relationship with, who trust you. Those are really the best people to kind of pull into your new business, because you've already established that connection and that relationship with them. You don't have to pay for advertising or anything like that. It's very easy, it's very quick, it's very simple, and it's effective. It works. It worked for me, and I know other people that that method's work for as well. So
love it.
Low-hanging fruit.
Okay. Awesome. I will remember that. Andrew, thank you so much. I've learned a lot, and I think that our viewers are really going to appreciate what you said today. So
I hope so.
Yes, definitely. Well, I would love it if they would put some feedback in the comments, guys. Also, you're welcome to ask some questions. I'm going to bring on Robert now with David, and then we can perhaps go through some questions at the end of the show.
Sure.
Fantastic.
Thanks.
Cool. Let's get into our next segment.
Hey! How's it going, David?
Well, thank you. Thank you for the great introduction, by the way.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Um, so David, there is a ton that we can cover as far as what you do, but I think you would definitely say it best. I noticed that you're a polyglot. Can you tell me what is it that you teach and how do you go about it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, right now I actually have a few programs,
Hmm.
and the main one is the business English. So I teach.
Hmm.
It's called US Business English. Yeah, usbusinessenglish.com, and I
Hmm.
have a little community there, and I teach just practical business English, and it really is about the experience. So I
Hmm.
try to take my students into the business experience. So it's all practical. It's all interactive, communicative,
Hmm.
and it's and yeah, it's very very dynamic. So that's one of them. But since I'm also a polyglot, as you said, and I absolutely adore learning languages, I want to share that experience because I think
Hmm.
it's so great for the mind. Just to think in different languages to just to change your mind. It's one of the best workouts that mental workouts that I know of. So
Hmm.
yeah, I also teach Spanish and French.
Excellent. And I saw that you're also located in the Czech Republic. Do you also speak Czech?
I've nemluvím dobře česky, ale mluvím trošku. Just a little bit.
Okay, okay, that
Just a
is
little bit,
a lot more than I speak.
yeah. Yeah.
Excellent.
So yeah, no,
Very,
but it's great. It's great. Just always learning different languages, always learning, and yeah, just growing and sharing that experience because it's transformational.
absolutely. So can you tell me what is the difference between teaching in these three languages?
Oh, wow. Great question. Yes. So, well, I think it's of course, each language has a spirit. And I know it sounds
Mm-hmm.
esoteric and all, but oh, yes, magic, yes.
Hmm.
But it really is true. So, the difference, I think, is to, like I was saying earlier, to take students into the experience. So, with English, and I think especially with business English, it's about the directness of it, the practicality of it, and just getting results, getting to the point. And especially American English and Texas English, it's kind of like the cowboy style, like
Hmm.
Mavericks. We're just the, so it's sharing that.
Hmm.
Every teacher, whether from the UK or even different parts of the United States, they can share kind of the spirit of the language that they speak. And of course, with Spanish, it's about like the hotness of it, the energy, you know,
Hmm.
the the rhythm. It's sexy, it's dynamic.
I've
And
s-
yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
I've seen what you mean, but it's also a very polite language. Like
It
when
is.
people are speaking Spanish, they're very kind.
It is, yes, and
Yeah.
it's a fantastic, yes, it is. It's that
Hmm.
respect, you definitely do have that,
Hmm.
and of course, yeah, with French, it's the poetic element, it's also emotional and it's elegant, it's royal, and it does have that je ne sais quoi, that don't
Okay.
know what, yes, yeah.
Excellent. That's very cool. I never really thought about it in that context, but I definitely see what you're talking about. They have their own sort of mood, or they have their own sort of personality. Yeah, the
Exactly,
language itself, and it says a lot about the culture too.
exactly, yes.
It's it sounds like you're very well adapted to a lot of different cultures. Can you tell me about that process?
Well, yes, actually, it was. Well, I grew up in Mexico City. I was born in
Hmm.
Houston, Texas, and I lived some time in Houston. But then my dad was
Hmm.
he was a petrochemical engineer, so he
Hmm.
got he got a job. He got a post in Mexico. So I grew up in
Hmm.
Mexico. My parents, I spoke Spanish to my dad, English to my
Hmm.
mom, and they wanted the third language. So I went to a French school, French international school, where everything was in French. And
Hmm.
so, and we had a lot of different languages. I took Latin growing up. I took German, later on Portuguese, and so it
Ah.
was the international experience. So really, I grew up with it, and so like I tell everyone, like I couldn't speak one language until probably I was like 6 or 7. I spoke all of them. Like the idea came to me in a language, and I started the sentence in English, then
Mhm.
spiced it up with some Spanish, and
Mhm.
added something something in French. So it was really it was an organic process
Mhm.
of doing it. And then I've just continued, and I've traveled a lot in the last 12 years. I've been to 48 countries, lived in 9 of them, taught everywhere. So,
Wow.
so it really is, it's, it's a lifelong process of learning,
Mhm.
of sharing, and of also, learning, of course.
Excellent. That's very impressive. So it sounds like you have a very easy time relating to a lot of your students. Can you describe how being a polyglot helps you relate outside of just the surface level being able to speak the language?
Wow, yeah, that's a great question. Thanks, Robert. So yes, I
Thank you.
think the main thing, it's learning a different language
Mhm.
is a tough process. It's tough psychologically, and it's coaching. It's good, and it's like one of my students. He described it perfectly. He said that the biggest challenge for him is dealing with these micro frustrations throughout the class. It's just like, oh,
Mhm.
wow, I knew it, but I don't have it, or I studied it and then my mind goes blank, or whatever micro frustration. And so I think when I put myself always on the other side. I'm learning languages, and so I know what it's like, and I know how difficult it is. So I can relate to them, and I can relate to them, and I know what the experience is like to
Mhm.
learn. And so when I'm teaching, I really go deep into what they're feeling and what they're going through, and then I kind of know like the medicine. I know when to back off. I know when to change. I know when to ask an easy question, when how to build them up, and then how to challenge them, how to throw a curveball,
Mhm.
and that's I think one of the hardest things in teaching is really to know what medicine, or what, of course, what activity and what challenge to give our
Mhm.
students.
Excellent. So it really helps you read the room, but at a microscopic level where you can see every detail.
Exactly. Yes, and you can see, that one of the great things about teaching online is that
Mhm.
you have the face. So if we learn to, yeah, exactly, if we learn to read, and if we learn,
Mhm.
and if we can relate to them, then we can be like, oh wow, okay, this is what's happening in this person's universe.
Mhm.
And so, and it's a social, I teach in groups, of course, and I do it's a hybrid system. So I give
Mhm.
materials beforehand, and then we go live, because that's the way to teach, and that's the
Mhm.
and so it, and when we provide these experiences
Mhm.
and this dynamic, then yes, we have to go deep into the dynamics, I guess.
Excellent. So when you do take, or as you take the time to put yourself in their shoes, how do you advise people the way that Noah Zepeda has been advised to immerse themselves in the language? How do you make that connection?
Great. Well, the way I always say, ask one question, what's the motivation?
Hmm.
Is really, and then it's almost I talked about languages, how they're spiritual, but it's also a
Hmm.
relationship. So you build a relationship with the language. So if you're a businessman, and your dream is to become the Wolf of Wall Street, then we need, then I know where to take them, and so I know what language to give them, and the relationship with the language.
Hmm.
And so it's about watching the movies, really playing the role, observe, watch that, and get the lingo, get the body language, get the expressions,
Hmm.
and so really make it part of your life, rather than just learning the language and just kind of creating a little space in your mind and in your life for business English, saying like, no, like I'm going to go deep into it, and I'm going to holistically
Hmm.
incorporate it into every element of my life. And that's, I think, the secret to learning any language is to make it part of who you are.
So I really like that you brought that up because I also learned a little bit of Spanish growing up, and the big piece of advice that I always got was watch movies in Spanish, listen to the radio in Spanish, and we had a radio station where I lived. But what else can someone do to really incorporate that and live the language?
Wow. Okay. Well, that's of course the and it's not an original one, an original idea, but of course it's to be in a community, a Spanish community. So if you're in the States, I mean, there are 33 million, Spanish speakers, especially in the South and Texas, California. I mean, you'll find plenty of people on the internet. That's the amazing thing about the internet. You can just meet a bunch of Spanish-speaking friends from all over the world. 560 million of us total, native Spanish speakers all over the world. So that's it. And like you said, all the music, all media, and also, and this might sound a little cuckoo for some people, but it's about like speaking out loud in the language. So I tell my students, okay, well, you especially when you get to the intermediate or upper intermediate, the biggest problem is to think in the language. And one of the only solutions that I see is to speak out loud when you're alone at home in the language, the target language, and slowly you just start whatever's on your mind, you just say it out loud in the target language, and then you get into the persona, into the character. You see?
Absolutely. And that is excellent for learning Spanish or going to a new country and learning the local language. But what about someone who's a bit isolated, or they're trying to learn English, but they don't live in an English-speaking country? I get that question all the time.
Yes. Well, I know, of course, on social media, that's it. Reaching out to people and just saying, hey, I'm making friends. This is what I can do. This is what I know. This is what I can offer, and just connecting with people online. Really, that's I can see, especially in these years and these times, just opening up your world online and to people, and just inviting and really making that step towards them, because few people will come to you, even if the door is open. We have to go into their worlds, and really befriend them and connect with them. I think that's a great question.
Yeah, absolutely. Horandir brought up a really good point, is that you can listen, but like you said, you have to connect with them. There has to be an open communication.
Yes. And it's really, it comes from a deep place. It has to, it's when we're, the reason why I traveled so much, and the reason why I told myself that I would see the world, and before settling down, was because every part of the world, every language, every person actually has a secret to better living. And when we connect, when we connect with them, we acquire that. It's almost through osmosis. Even if you don't go up to a person and say, "What's your secret to living a better life?" Even if we just talk to them and just listen to their stories, we're like, "Wow, like this person has a lot of respect." For example, like you were saying, Spanish. This person has a great work ethic. This person, is really connected to their emotions, and they're very good at expressing themselves. And so really, when we do that, and really go from a deep place ourselves to learn from others, and then also to give ourselves, to empty ourselves, it's really, that's the transformation, I think.
Totally agree. That is very very insightful, David.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome. So we talked a little bit about business earlier with Alexander. How exactly do you manage a business with 3 different languages?
That's hard. Yes, a little bit of sleep, a lot of caffeine, and yes, there you go. Yeah, and so yeah, it's hard work. It's hard work, but the way I see it now, it's work that I love. It's my hobby, and like this is my time, and I think this is our time for a lot of people.
Mhm.
It's what's in the online. Well, first of all, the knowledge economy, the internet economy, and online learning, and the experience economy. There's a great book called The Experience Economy, and it just talks about just how we are right here. We're starting this new era, and so there's nothing better to do. Like I've already spent hours on the beaches of Rio de Janeiro, and in the underground clubs of Berlin and everything, and that's great. I had a great time. But now's my time to do this. So really, just pouring my heart and soul into it. Serving my fellow humans, and try to make a difference, and just to impart something, the best that I have.
Excellent. So you said that now is your time, and I'd like for you to expound upon that, because you mentioned all these fun experiences you did. I have heard so much about Rio de Janeiro, but also the clubs of Berlin. But do you feel like you're getting more out of serving?
Yeah, well, I think it's very interesting, because it life, and I don't want to get too philosophical, because I know this is we want to talk about teaching and everything, but it really is it's a journey, and it's a story. It's almost like a novel, and in different novels there are different chapters, and in a life there are different chapters as well. So with personally, what I do is I lived what I needed to live at, and I still have fun, of course, but that's not our priority right now. And I lived it to I lived that chapter fully. I had fun. I saw the world, and now it's maybe it's time, and I do feel it's time to buckle down and just put the work in and build something. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us, David.
My pleasure.
It's been amazing speaking with you.
Yes, thank you. Likewise.
Thank you, David. Claire, did you have any questions for David?
Italiano.
So I acquired this little baby about 12 years ago. Baby, thank
There
you,
you go.
David.
It's not too late. It's not too late.
Absolutely. And that's also something that I've heard from a couple of my students. I think one of their lecturers told them that, you can only learn a language up until 12 years old. There's no hope for you after that. And I'm thinking, no, that is absolutely not true. And yes, English is one of the most difficult languages in the world, but it's not true. I've watched my students grow over the last year in leaps and bounds. So yeah, I think, well, now on that note, I've just put pressure on myself.
No worries. Sometimes pressure can be good, a little bit. Yeah.
Absolutely. Get uncomfortable, right? What happens? Awesome. Andrew, David, thank you so much for joining Robert and I today. It was
welcome.
So interesting. I'm really glad that we had some of the British flavor here. We've got some Czech Republic and all the other languages. So it's been really exciting. Thank you. Cheers, guys. We'll chat a little bit later then. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Woo! Wow. That was amazing. That was really incredible. I learned so much. I was sitting here listening. Right, Claire, you in a live show. You need to focus what's going on. It was incredible advice. Oh, Robert. Well, my friend, thank you for joining me as usual. Episode 8 Who knew?
Ooh, hey. Thank you for
So
having
we've
me,
got-
Claire.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. We've got 2 more episodes, and then maybe we will throw in a little surprise at the end.
Ooh.
Well, before we love and leave you, I would like to thank our sponsor, theteachingrevolution.com. They have very active Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, Instagram pages. So to all of our viewers, please go check that out. But yeah, time to say goodbye. Enjoy the rest of your day. I know it's coffee time for you.
It's
Afternoon,
always coffee time.
True. Fantastic, Robert. Take care, and I'll see you next week.
See you next week, Claire.
All right. Bye. Thanks, Robert.